We're going to get started. So, I was mentioning to folks that, well, we were talking a little bit about our spotted lanternfly problem here in Connecticut. We've under full attack at this point, I think it's fair to say. And the unfortunate invasive species called the tree of heaven is where they love to take the sap out of. And so we'll talk more about that in a minute. So I'm going to go back a little bit in July because some of these things are still out. Like one of them is Joe Pye weed is out still. New York ironweed is out. Narrowleaf thistle is still out. Fennel, if you happen to have any, there's a natural fennel. Common thistle is still out. And then narrowleaf plantain is that little, you might even consider it a weed. It's in your gardens or in your lawn, actually. And it has this single spire that shoots way up. And at the top of it, you might see a little bit of white pollen, and bees collect that. So, and there's also a broadleaf plantain. But the narrowleaf plantain is, something that's in every lawn all over the place. And when there's a dearth, especially for pollen dearth, you'll see bees collect it. I was watching them, excuse me, I was watching them collect it 2 days ago, and they just roll around on the top of that stem. It's fun to watch. I have no idea what kind of nutritional value that pollen has, but I do know that they collect it. Seed them if you have some plants in your garden somewhere. You'll see they'll be loaded with bees. In addition to any hyssop that's still out. That's a beautiful herb that you can eat and grow in your garden, and you can watch bees work that like crazy. Sweet clover is still out a little bit. Virginia creeper, I'm not really sure if it even bloomed this year. Burdock, of course, is out. Burdock looks like thistle. It's a kind of thistle, I guess, and it is a magnificent bee magnet when it's out. And there are other little things that are around that you might want to consider planting in your yard. One of them is Virgin's Bower. You'll have to just write that down. But if you have a little fence or something that you want to put in a little pollinator of an extraordinary attractant to pollinators, Virgin's Bower is a great little plant. It's not an invasive. It's a beautiful little white flower, and honeybees work it, and you can just go up front and see them working it. All right, so here's what we have: a pitiful amount of blooms in August, and you might have noticed it because it's likely that your bees are in, or your bee yard is in an incredible dearth at this point. And you can see it if you've been monitoring your entrance activity over the season. You'll notice that at this point, there's not a lot going on. You'll see a low population of bees, and the bees are making adjustments to go into winter at this point. So the queen's not laying as much, populations are down, and it might look like there's really nothing going on in your landing board. And but you're comparing it, of course, to when there was a full flow on and there was a lot of activity. Right now, you're not getting that. And also, bees are a little cautious about, temperatures in the high 90s. It requires resources for them to fly in that hot weather. They have to actually take nectar with them or honey, dilute it with water, put it in their honey stomach before they leave, and then use it as a coolant. As they fly, they exude it out of their proboscis and coat their head and cool themselves down when they fly. So it's a different kind of thing to fly in weather that's really humid and really hot for bees. So there's less activity. All right, so we have the Korean BB tree. If you haven't planted one of those yet and you really would love to see the phenomena of what goes on in a BB tree this time of year, buy one and plant it in your yard. It'll grow to about 25, 30 feet. It will have 10 million blooms on it without an exaggeration. And it will seem like to you that there's nothing else that it's a swarm of bees. That's what it sounds like around that tree from a little bit after 10 a.m. until a little bit past 3:30. It seems like they work every flower on the whole tree, and it's an amazing thing to see. And the good part about that kind of a planting in your yard, if you can afford the space for this little tree, it will serve as a sustaining bloom when nothing else is really doing that job. You know, dogbane is a sustaining bloom. It's out. It's been out since June. It is blooming. We're seeing some jewelweed out. Wing sumac, not a big deal, but it's out. If you have a lot of that around, that would be great. I have Rosa Sharon down there, but it's a minor attraction to bees. Also, the natural lettuce, the tall blue lettuce, is out. Clematis, if it's in the natural clematis is in your area, that will be out. Down and around the shoreline, I hear people can actually make some honey on clematis, and of course, the two big stars of August are Japanese knotweed and goldenrod, and they really can't come soon enough, as far as I'm concerned. Even though the Japanese knotweed is considered invasive, our bees are in rough shape this year for forage, so it would really help them survive. And then goldenrod, you might be seeing some goldenrod right now. Like that's the early field goldenrod. It's not one that really produces a lot of nectar. Bees don't really work it. It's in dry areas usually, but I've noticed that the real productive goldenrod species are beginning to show some color. So before they come out and flower, they're very the fields start to shade right where most of the bees that I attend to are. There's 40 acres of goldenrod, so it's a big source for them in the fall. I don't take it. I let them overwinter with it, but that's where we're at. Okay, so that's how I see August. But you might have, oh, okay, hold on. There are a few laggers down here. Russins, these are not really big producers, but I put them in there just because we're running out of blooms as the year goes on. End of August, September, you see what's out there. Ragweed, mugwort. Actually, mugwort will start to flower about the same time as goldenrod. So I have mugwort in September, but actually it'll provide a source of pollen for bees in the morning. At the same time, goldenrod is out. Goldenrod takes a while for nectar to actually start to be produced in its nectaries. And in the morning, bees will go out and collect pollen from mugwort. And then as soon as goldenrod is blooming or nectaring, the bees will switch from mugwort to goldenrod. I see it every year. It's a magnificent thing to watch. Sweet clover's out. It's been out since July. And bird's foot trefoil, not a big producer, but it's been out there, and bees work it. The other thing bees work on the side of the road, you'll see it all over the place, little lavender flower. It's really chicory. And bees will work single flowers of chicory all through the whole season. So if you're wondering how your bees are surviving during the dearth, they're not really doing that well, except if they're diverse enough in their foraging skills, and most colonies that survive then they find enough sustaining blooms to make it through. All right, so that's what we have for. Let's talk about the lanternfly problem for a minute. And George, you chime in if you don't mind with what you're seeing down in Stratford. We're not seeing so much of it here in Cheshire, but I expect that since the lanternflies lays its egg cases, unlike any other insect, the lanternfly will lay its egg cases on automobiles, trains, bicycles, and it's found a way, because of that habit, it's found a way to spread uncontrolled throughout regions because it's being transported. The egg cases are being transported. Most insects stay with their egg cases, but not lanternflies. So, George, what are you observing?
So, Bill, I work in Stratford, right on the Bridgeport line, so Lordship Boulevard. And where our building is, it's kind of a swampy area, and we have a couple of large, what are they, Tree of Heaven,
Yeah.
that and the lanternflies seem to really love that. But boy, we have this just kind of two-story stone building, and in the afternoon, the west side is just covered with them. Right now,
Oh,
there's a couple juvenile instars, I guess you'd say, and then the mature ones with the brightly colored wings. You see all of it right now. So yeah, and I've been in this building for a few years now. Every year it's gotten worse, but it was really remarkable change this year. Just how many
yeah.
are around, and there are problems. They getting in the building and everything else. But yeah,
Well,
try to make
so
sure you don't bring them home.
yeah, you don't want to bring them home, right?
Yeah. And so my other lanternfly observations have been I happen to be at Staten Island once in a while, and they're terrible out there. And last weekend I noticed in Manhattan, first time I'd seen one in the city, in Manhattan. So I guess they're
Yeah.
making.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's not much for them in Manhattan. Tree of Heaven is their
Yeah.
preferred vegetation, but the they're they're not that like loyal to it. So they have a habit of eating grapevines. So we have a wine industry in Connecticut. You say what you
Yeah.
want about it. Um, um, and we're beginning to produce better wines as time goes on. And the grapevines are a subject of concern because that and other crops, they will eat anything if they don't have tree of heaven. And the odd part about the way this works out for the spotted lanternfly is that, first of all, I wish it wasn't an incredibly invasive insect because it's so beautiful. I mean, it is just a gorgeous thing to see.
They
But
are. Yeah.
except except it's looks a big warning sign. Anyway, they are after protein, not nectar from a tree, right? So they will somehow get into the tissues that carry the nectar up in trees. The trees are making, of course, constant amount of sugar to feed the photosynthesis process that they're using to grow. And what happens is lanternflies are processing. There's a little small amount of protein in that sap. So lanternfly's digestive system, or its whole internal organs, are designed to excrete all of the sugar part. I mean, they're maple syruping. That's what they're doing, right? They're distilling the nectar, excreting the sugars, which they don't need, and they're keeping the proteins. So, I mean, of course they do need some of the sugar, but not a lot. But the disgusting part about it is it just drips down tree trunks. It looks like tar, and of course during it occurs exactly at the same time when there's a dearth. So bees are looking for uh, anything, and we call that honeydew. They have also always bees have always collected what we refer to as insect excrement from aphids, and the lanternfly is just a larger version of an aphid that produces more of this sticky sweet substance that they go after. The bees go after it like crazy, and they bring it back. And if you haven't taken your honey off, and you get spotted lanternfly honeydew in your honey, you'd be surprised how different it tastes. Now, there are people who say that they like the taste of lanternfly honey. I have tasted it, and hopefully maybe one or two of you have tasted it. It takes an imagination to like that honey. A big one.
An acquired taste.
Yeah.
And you're right, the lower parts of these trees, the leaves are just covered in like a shiny, sappy film. Right. I
Okay.
guess yeah, whether it's what they excrete or is dripping from the upper leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on. So we'll take some questions from the floor. You can put up a little symbol, raise your hand. You can put your questions in the chat, and we'll move on from there. But before we do that, we're gonna ask Peter if he has any temperature data he can share with us.
Hey, Bill.
Hi, Peter.
Yeah, I think so. Let me
Sure.
bring that up real quick.
So for those of you who don't know, Peter has some sensors in his colonies, and he does a excellent job at keeping track of things like the weight and I guess other things, temperature, and maybe even humidity, right, Peter?
Yes, except I'm really not sure what to look for in the humidity data.
Yeah, there
I
is
mean,
nothing, but you're keeping track of it
okay.
anyway, right?
Okay. All right. So this is 30 days. Looking back 30 days, this is of course BroodMinder. Of course, there's other companies out there, but I've been using BroodMinder sensors. And I have well, I have 4 hives right now. 3 of them have scales. All 4 of them have at least one temperature sensor, and a couple have humidity also in there. So just
Yeah,
to
right.
confuse you a little bit. But these are the weights I'm seeing over the past 30 days. And then you can see on the colors are on the bottom. So this number 2 has been a little heavier. I think part of the reason for that was when I did extract honey, I had a lot of frames that had nectar in it, a lot of nectar, but we're not capped, so I kind of combined them. I put them on that particular hive.
So you're calling them JPL Westport. What do you call them? JPL 1, 2, and 3? Is that what
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Those are the hives names, right? Okay.
So I'm not seeing any crazy losses in weights. They are going down a little bit, and I need to get out there. It's been hot, so I haven't really felt like it. And I was also on vacation for a couple weeks. But I got to go check them out. That's weight. This is similar weight change, and it looks drastic, but it's not really that many pounds over the course of a month. And then temperatures, and again, there's a lot of stuff here. Some of the hives have 2 sensors. Some have 1, so some have, I have 2 deeps on all of them. So some of the sensors are sitting on the top of the lower and then also the top of the upper. But generally, this is kind of what I would like to see, where they're in this, what BroodMinder calls the brood zone, which is well, 92 to 98. So generally, that's what you like to see, and definitely see it dropping as we get further into probably September, October. Again, humidity, I'm never sure exactly what to make of this, but it does sit within a BroodMinder like comfort zone.
That's fine. Not that it means anything. Or we can't figure out, we don't know. The scientists don't know what to say about humidity, except that it's pretty clear that bees maintain some, but in the cell itself, where there's a little bit of larva in it, the cell itself does require some a microclimate.
Right, and the problem is, you can, unless you got some sort of system where there's a lot of sensors. You can only put the sensor in one
Yeah,
place.
right. Yeah,
And
that's the
so
one.
you're sort of limited in
Right.
what you're seeing. But
So let's take a look at let's take a look at uh, JPL in what one. That's what you have up there right now, right?
well, I got several of them up, but we could look at that one.
Let's just look at one data point, and then you have weight there. So you're saying that the weight pretty much stayed. Oh, okay, there we go. All right, so if you look at July 17th, so you have peaks that were up around 104 pounds or higher even. And now your peaks are down at only a couple of pounds less. All right, so the way I see that is the colony is basically sustaining its, you don't know if that's honey or brood, right? So there could be a little bit of brood rearing there that's maintaining the sort of constant weight, and also some nectar, I guess. So hard to
Yeah,
tell.
and last time I was in there was let me see, July 26th, and there appeared to be a problem. So this particular one, I do have to get back in there. I added some good frames of brood, but it's very late in the season. So I have to see what's going on, and over the next 2 or 3 days, I'll be in there.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Very nice.
And then the
So
other thing, I
what's
take
that messy
advantage.
data there?
Yeah, so take advantage of BroodMinder's alerts, where if you get a temperature spike or a significant weight loss, it can send to you an alert on to your phone. So I started taking readings every 5 minutes. That's why it looks a lot busier, over the last 2 weeks here. And I set up a system that it's collecting it closer to real time than it was before. So anyway.
Okay, cool. So back to brood. Thank you. Thanks, Peter. Let's just maybe we'll skip it for tonight, but we'll get back if we have some time at the end, Peter. Maybe you can get back and go over the bloom calendar, the shared bloom calendar piece again, if you don't mind.
Yep.
That you started. All right, so let's get back to some questions here. So Vladimir, one hive had about 1 inch high pile of gray fibrous material and about 10 pollen pellets in front of the hive. Another hive had similar material on the bottom insert board. What are the bees up to? Good question, Vladimir. Why don't you take the mic and flesh this out for us? Because I'm not sure what you mean by a high pile of gray fibrous material.
Well, I'm not sure how to describe it, other than
Yeah.
that, it's definitely gray. And if I squeeze it between my fingers, it kind of sticks together, so it'll form I don't know. You can squeeze it into a pellet. It doesn't quite look like wax, and I'm wondering if it's cappings from brood.
Well,
But
where is it?
by the way, I have 4 hives, and only 2 hives are doing this. The other 2 are not doing this at all.
Well, doing this gray fibrous material, where are you collecting it from?
Oh, well, in one hive, it's on the insert that used for counting mite drops. The
Yes.
other hive, I have a white square in front of the hive, and so it's directly in front of the hive.
So what do you have any kind of treatment in there?
No.
All right, so what you'll normally see on a drop board is you will see cappings. They're not gray though. They're never gray. They're usually a light or dark brown. Not gray at all. So I really can't tell you what you have there with gray fibrous material unless they're chewing something out of the colony. Like if it's a poly box or there's something that they're able to chew out, that they don't want in the colony, something you put in there, or is it a regular wooden Langstroth box?
Yeah, it's a regular Langstroth, wooden box.
Yeah, so
with
you'll have to take a
little
picture of it.
nothing else in there.
Yeah, take a photograph of that material, and pollen pellets are not unusual to see on a drop board because they don't all get up to the cells that they're meant for. And bees have to kick that pollen off their back legs, and they're very good at it. And they're very good at kicking it off, but sometimes it bounces out of the cell and ends up on the drop board. So 90% of it gets into the cells that are designated for pollen collection, but some of it doesn't get in there. So
Well-
don't really know what that fibrous material is, but anyway, anybody else have any ideas what gray fibrous material would be? I don't know what that is. Unless you're mistaking it for, cappings would be cappings. When you see cappings on a bottom board, you see them in line with whatever they're removing. So for instance, if bees are emerging out of cells in a certain frame in the brood box, directly under that on the bottom board, the sticky board, will be a line of mature capping material, little bits of it, and that's usually like a dark brown. And then if they're uncapping wax, you'll see that also. You'll see it, but it's a lighter color because wax cappings are lighter than brood cappings. And also, it would come directly under the frame where they're uncapping wax. If they're making wax, you'll see nice little clear wax scales in a line under the frame where they're making wax. Now, these are all things that if you have a chance to come to the bee yard, we go over every year. It makes it very clear for you to see exactly what I'm talking about here. So anyway, so then again, I'm encouraging folks to come to the bee yard. Lauren,
Hi.
I have no idea why your bees, why wouldn't they go to Korea? You know why? They're online.
Is that why? I was so disappointed. I've been waiting so long for this thing to bloom. They didn't care about it. There's a couple of bumblebees.
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do we
They're
have
all
the same? Do we have the same tree?
I mean, I hope so. I have 3 of them, but this is the first one to bloom. And it really bloomed very
Prolifically.
like very amazing blooming for a first year. Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, maybe it didn't make any nectar this year or something like that. But you live close enough. How far away do you live from me?
Like 20 minutes.
No, that's too far. But yeah.
I wondered I tried to raise my hand. I'm sorry, I couldn't figure out how to do that. For the person with the chewed up stuff, is there insulation?
Well, that's what I was asking. He said no, but
No insulation and didn't combine colonies with newspaper.
that's another one where you'll see that these are all good suggestions, Lauren. Thank you. Yeah. If you've got anything you've put in there, gray, you'll see if you put in something like Viroxan strips or Epistan strips, not Epistan, but Apivar strips, anything that has a strip material under it is gray, and they'll sometimes chew that out, and you'll see it under there. Some bees leave it alone. Some bees will take it out of the colony. Yeah. No, wax moth. So, yeah. So you had that down there also, Lauren, right? Did they chew out up Viroxan? Yeah, they'll do that. And then gray matter. Somebody else. Let's see who else wrote in there, trying to solve this problem here. It's like little detectives. JT said wax moth cocoon. No, wax moth cocoons, you're not going to see them on your bottom board. Wax moth cocoons are white and almost pure white, and the wax moth is underneath it or inside of it. And it's unusual for a strong colony to have wax moth that are visible. Unless we're seeing something like small hive beetles or something like that in there. So there is maybe some other kind of infestation that would cause a gray material, but I don't see it. I've never seen anything gray.
Bill, all the hives are very strong, by the way.
Oh, look, they're really strong.
Yes.
Okay, so that's good because that'll keep those infestations down, especially wax moth. Which you wouldn't have to worry too much about this year. And it hasn't been a strong year for small hive beetles. So I'll take a little informal survey here. Have folks seen small hive beetles like we saw last year in colonies this year? So if you have, please chime in because I haven't seen, because I went nuts trying to control them last year and I killed every possible thing I can. But I haven't seen any small hive beetles at all in the apiary. And I'm also missing Varroa. Not that I'm not missing it. I'm not lamenting the fact that it's not around, but Varroxan strips, which I have to take out now because I've had it in for a long enough period of time, have kept the population of Varroa down in check in my apiary. And that's the first time I can say for certain that I'm not seeing crawlers outside. I didn't miss them. So, and I didn't put on formicates, of course, when the temperature was so high in the last week or two, this would be the time when I would use Formic Pro, but you can't because the temperatures are too high and it'll devastate the bees. All right.
Bill, this is Tim.
Hey, Tim.
How you doing?
Good, thanks. Good to
I'm
see
seeing
you.
the same. I'm seeing basically the same. Like the mites have been really responsive, or it's been responsive to Roxanne, so my mite level's been low. And then I've seen a couple small hive beetles here and there, but it's like it feels like the good old days pre last year when it was just like, oh, that's what that is. Like, oh, okay.
Except last year we got a formal introduction.
Yeah, but nothing like last year so far. Definitely seeing the same conditions, like hives that are not in as sunny a location, or splits that are still kind of building up. I'm more likely to be seeing them there, but yeah, it has definitely not been as bad.
Okay, so I don't know if you were here earlier, Tim. I was explaining to folks that I just did a barn cutout, which is, so it was a special request from somebody that I knew, or otherwise I wouldn't do it. And I managed to get through. It took pretty much 3 days to finish it, but I sucked up one while I was vacuuming the bees off the face of the comb so I could cut the brood out and all of that I was cutting out of and then reframing. I sucked up a small hive beetle and I just couldn't. I wanted to go stop everything, go in the vacuum cleaner. There had 10,000 bees inside my bee vac to find that small hive beetle. I haven't seen it, but there was only one in that colony. So, and that was a massive colony. So I was encouraged by that. So yeah, so it's good that you're not seeing them, and I hope other folks are not seeing them also. This infestation that we had last year, for whatever reason, maybe it's cyclical, maybe they'll come back and they'll be here with a vengeance next year. But for right now, I think we're okay. So I'm a novice beekeeper with 2 hives. Both hives have 2 brood boxes and 1 super on top. One is busy bees boiling over. Okay, Marcy, congratulations. What did you want to, do you have a question with that you want to discuss?
Well, the hives are behaving quite differently.
Yes.
So one is, they both seem healthy to me. I don't really know. It's my first year.
Yes.
But the one that is, it's really busy and sort of when I open it up, they kind of boil over, and I wonder if I should be doing something different or if that's how they should be behaving at this time of year.
Yes. Yeah, this is the difficult part of beekeeping in the beginning. You have to about the biology. So you have 2 examples of you treated them the same, correct, Marcy?
Yes.
Did you do anything to control Varroa or try to control Varroa at all?
Yeah, I put Varroxan in sort of like the latter half of July, like the 21st or 22nd of July.
So now you're not
in.
gonna, yeah, you're gonna leave that in.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, so what you're seeing, I can only imagine you're seeing the difference in the genetics between those two queens.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so you're seeing one queen has the ability, maybe she was mated differently, whatever, but she's conducting her colony in one way, and you're seeing it, your other colony in a different state. Less bees, I imagine, in the other one. So you can do nothing except observe it,
Uh-huh.
or you can try to equalize the brood. So for instance, if you only have two colonies, and this would be nice for you to start thinking about, we're heading into the winter season, and it might make sense for you to evaluate the condition of the queen in the weaker colony. Is she still laying eggs, and so on and so forth? So check that all out.
She is. She is.
Okay, and
Yeah.
the frames of brood you should try to equal them out. If your strong colony has, 4 frames of brood at this point, or that would be a lot, but maybe 5. She could even have maybe 5 frames of brood. She's bringing on winter bees at this point. You might want to take a frame of brood out of that colony and put it in the weaker one. Try to boost the population. Okay, that's about the extent you can do.
Okay. And then I just had another quick question. You had said that we're in the dearth. So are we supposed to be feeding them syrup at this point, or do we really wait till mid-September to start that?
Well, so that's another kind of thing that comes with a little bit of experience.
Yeah.
So when you get into that colony, see what's in there. Like if they're living on the edge, what I mean by living on the edge is that, there might be a few cells of nectar around, but there's no capped honey, or, in the brood box I'm talking about. Now you say you have 2 boxes and a super?
Yes.
All right, so what's in that super?
Well, so this is, like the idiot novice. In the super on the very active hive, I just let it go with them. And so they filled it it's filled with nectar, but quite a bit of capped whatever it is. But I was feeding them, and she's laid a bit up there, and that's fine. Like I don't need to harvest honey this year. I'd be more interested in getting them off to a good winter start. And then on the other hive, the quieter hive, I had an excluder on that one, so it's nectar, I guess, up there.
Well,
and capped, and then capped, whatever they've capped is up there.
but you were feeding that one too when you put the
I was feeding them up to maybe 3 weeks ago.
Okay, so that's not, you can't really consider that honey.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, all right. So so now you have this little dilemma, because what's going to occur is if you're going to leave those supers on over the winter time, you have to remove the excluders.
Yeah.
One of them doesn't have an excluder on, the other one does. So what'll happen is you've already noticed that the queen likes those nice drawn supers out, and she goes up there and lays, and that's where your colony will be in spring. And so then you'll have this, you'll have to deal with that. You want to try to get you'll have your supers filled with brood, and your colony will be up there. So if you put queen excluders on the other colony that doesn't have a queen excluder on at that point, you can't winter that way. So you got to figure that out. Right. So yeah, that's the part you have to figure out. You could probably nadir them supers, put them down below the brood box. That's an old school way of doing it. You can, because then bees will build up, not go down, and they'll use that honey, but they'll use that first thing in the spring. And then you can continue to feed them then and try to build winter stores in that top box. All right, so there's a few things you can do. But yeah, you're getting off to a good start, and you're running into next year you'll become a beekeeper.
Yeah, okay.
It's really hard the second year. It's easy the first week.
All right.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you.
So what I'm trying to ask is,
Okay.
I'm a little confused. What are the parameters of a strong or a weak hive at this time of the year? Do I go by brood? Do I go by bees number on the frames, frames of bees or frames of brood? So I understand I need to equalize them first, and then to try to combine them to increase chances of survival during the winter.
Well, you have, how many colonies do you have?
13.
Yeah, so okay, so yeah, so how do you, it's a good question. Thank you so much for asking that. How do you figure out at this time of year what's good? Well, ideally at this point, since there's a dearth, and it's a difficult question to answer. Bees during a dearth are going to, the queens are going to stop laying as much as they were if there was lots of stuff around for them to gather. So, but they'll pick up a little bit with brood rearing if when goldenrod and knotweed start to bloom. You got to try to see if you have, 7 or 8 seams of bees in those colonies. For the ones that are really weak this time of year, those are the ones that you combine with a stronger colony. Don't do it the other way around. You take your weak colony and you combine that with a stronger one, and you remove the queen out of it first. So if it's a weak colony and you want to combine it, you don't want to put the queen from that weak colony and combine that with a strong colony, because you can get, these queens can get into a fitness contest, and they most certainly will actually. And then you could lose the good queen, right? She could muster up enough energy to kill the better queen. So you really don't want to do that. Yeah. So if you're looking at brood frames, look at a colony that you think is ideal, like one that has 5, 6 frames of brood, maybe 4 frames of brood, something like that, which is like average for your yard. And then try to move those colonies around so that all of them have that much brood. So, 4 frames of brood this time of year would be a really good strong colony. And preparing for little boost in the fall flow, and then also making a bunch of winter bees to carry the colony over into springtime. And then you have to
Okay.
have stores.
Okay.
Right.
And I don't use queen excluders.
Mhm.
And the brood is all over the place. I usually do 1 deep and a few mediums. And the brood is everywhere, in deep, in mediums, medium 1, medium 2, sometimes even medium 3. So what I'm
Yeah.
trying to do is I am trying to lower all the brood frames from upper mediums as low as possible to the lower mediums, and move the stores frames from lower mediums to upper mediums to prepare for the winter. Is this a good idea?
Well, you made so there's an English term that I love. They use it in soccer alike. You made a dog's dinner out of your bee yard. I mean, by trying to mix all of those frames together in all of those different kinds of boxes, you sort of went against one bee practice that, as you get on in this sort of hobby, you always try to have your brood in one kind of box. So like either a deep or medium, either you keep medium bees or deep bees. In the way you're doing it makes it very difficult for you to manage the way brood is being distributed. And because the brood, and that's exactly right, the brood will be all over the place. It really doesn't amount to more than about 5 or 6 frames of brood in one deep. But bees are allowed to roam around in a lot of space. Queens will not, excuse me, bees aren't going to follow any kind of, queens aren't going to follow any kind of a rule to put all the brood in a nice place where you want it. And for you to move brood out of a box, you have to use the queen excluder. And if how you go about that is going to be a little bit labor intensive, because you have to keep the queen from laying in a given box. And the way you do that is with a queen excluder. But first, you have to make certain you go through that box and figure out if she's in there or not. Then you got to move her out, and then let that box, all the brood, emerge from that box, and then you would have a box that's free of brood, and the queen will continue to lay somewhere else. And you can go ahead and do that as much as you have to move. You're not really moving brood. Your brood doesn't move. Once a queen lays an egg in a cell, that's where that brood finishes its life and emerges as an adult. So you can't move brood, but you can keep the queen from laying in a certain box and then freeing that box up for whatever it is you want to do. All right, so a little bit complicated in what you're.
Okay, thank you.
Grub.
Everything's a little quiet this year. We've been very lucky.
Good. Geo doesn't have any. Let's see what we got. Alcohol. Bill, low varroa.
Very. I did 5 tests on 8 hives, and I had one positive test with 1 mite. The rest of the 4 other ones were basically 0.
Okay, wonderful. I mean, and I'm hoping that, we have finally arrived at a varroa side that we can not count on for eradicating every varroa in the colony, but keeping them under check throughout the year.
Yeah, the last time I treated was in the beginning of May, and that was with Formic Pro.
Okay, wonderful.
And I treated all the hives.
And so Peter's also using Varoxan, and that's great. Tim, what do you got for a question about your tree cutout?
Yeah, so I got called to like a housing project in West Haven about a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
Bees coming in and out of like a big very big tree, very big shade tree, I think an oak tree.
Mm-hmm.
And so the tree is not going to be cut, so I'm trying to do a trap out, but also trying to be mindful of the fact that it's basically right in front of someone's door. So I actually got called by a pest control guy who did not want to spray, which was nice.
Yeah.
And it was a rare one where actually they were honeybees and not just yellow jackets.
Yeah.
So what I started doing, I can tell you what I basically started doing is I made a sort of, I put a bee escape like coming from the tree and a bee escape going into the hive. So I put a box basically over the hole that they were using.
Yeah.
And I used like a airplane neck pillow as like a gasket essentially to kind of stuff into the crack there.
Yeah.
So the bees would have to travel through the box. And the idea was basically, just to kind of like essentially trap them in that box as opposed to like making a cone where they're flying out of the hive,
right.
just to keep people from freaking out. And that didn't quite work because they're able, I think maybe when the traffic gets so blocked up, they're able to get through the bee escape. I had like the triangular ones, and I even had the other ones too. And either way, they just were like able to kind of like get out of it. So my strategy right now is basically I have a box on there. I'm hoping that will kind of lure them up, because I noticed them festooning right on the inside of the hole after I took the box off last time.
Yeah.
But I was reaching my hand all the way to my shoulder. and pulling comb out, and it's like they're really deep into that tree. Super gentle. I didn't use any smoke or any veil. They were just like letting me reach into their hive
Yeah.
and pull the stuff out. So my goal is essentially, my plan is to leave it on a few more days, and on Saturday to go back and like pull that little contraption off, vacuum whoever's at the entrance. Hopefully the queen is coming in. But I didn't know if you had any other thoughts or any other like strategies of like doing a
Yeah.
trap out without a lot of confused bees outside of the hive. You know?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to say that I think that everything that you're trying will never work because the queen won't come out and they'll stay in that colony. And the only way you might have a chance of getting them out would be bee bandit. You know, if you spray that in there, get some from somewhere and spray it in there, they will move away from that. Where they go, it depends on what kind of cavities in that tree. You know, but that will get bandit will get them out. But they'll go right back in. You know,
Right.
if
That's the stuff that you use on like a fume board or whatever.
yeah, no, it's called Bee Bandit. It's a different product than you would use on
Okay.
a fume board. A little bit different, but it works the same way. No, actually, you can use it on a fume board, right? You know, old school, what they would do is use a chainsaw, cut a door in that tree, and you know, and then get in there and chop the comb out. But at this point, yeah, you're going to just end up frustrated. There's no way that the queen will come out of that colony. And
Okay.
unless you can get full-faced comb, there's never been a successful trap out that I know of. Maybe, I mean, you hear people tell you their little inventions, but beekeepers that have been around bee trees for a very long time will tell you that they've never been able to get one out unless you do it the way, you know, you would do it when you're cutting the tree down. And even then it's kind of tricky. So you have to drill holes above and below the cavity, then cut that section out where you have hard wood. Now you've got what they refer to as a bee gum. You know, you have a tree that has a solid top, you know, it's solid on the top, solid on the bottom, and the bees are in the middle. And then, you know, what I've done then is split them in half, split those tree trunks in half. But
Right.
that tree's not coming down, right?
No, yeah. That's
So,
the issue.
yeah,
My hope was that they would start to build, basically because I've blocked the original entrance, that it might lure them to start building a little further up into the tree. And then if I give them a few weeks or something, but I guess there's not really a flow on, so they're not going to be doing much building.
yeah,
But yeah, and then I could just vacuum them up. But all right, well, that's
yeah.
good. I'm going to go back there on Saturday. We'll see
Yeah, they're not.
what's
But
going
yeah,
on.
even if you vacuum them up, if you vacuum them up, you're just going to kill them because the queen's going to stay there. You know,
Right.
the queen will run and hide in a crevice in that tree cavity. You'll never find her up
Yeah.
there. Yeah, so you know, I just did a huge cutout on the barn as I was explaining, and I'm still sort of reeling from it. Because you know it was a honey shower at one point, you know, with honey dripping all over the place and bees from all over the neighborhood coming to feast on all of that stuff. And my final thought was, I wish I just told them that I didn't want to do it and leave the bees alone and let them live there. There's no problem for them to live in the barn. You're not going to live in the barn. Just let them go. They've been in there for 10 years that you know of. Just leave them there. But, you know, they were determined to get them out for some reason. So I took them out. But yeah, but I was able to excavate or demolish with, you know, fine tool and a sawzall, everything that covered the colony. And that's how you can get them out if you can't do
Right.
that. Right.
One other, do you think there's any possibility if I put, so it's an 8-frame medium that I just put on over the hole with some like comb in it and stuff. That was like, you know, one of the ideas, see if I could lure them up. If I put a frame of brood in there, I would obviously get nurse bees in there, but would that potentially lure the queen up there, do you think, or not really?
Yeah, well, no, the queen will not exit the daylight unless you can do something really crazy, I can't see how you would ever get them out. So if you had a nice little small hole and you put a 2-inch clear plastic pipe in it and you tried to suck them out with a bee vac, you might get some of the bees. But remember, a bee vac's a low volume device. Otherwise, you're just killing them, right? If you try to suck them out with a lot of a vacuum, they'll come down the pipe and they'll be coming down at 35 miles an hour. There's a lot of vacuum. Then they'll come into the box you're vacuuming them into, and they'll hit the back wall and smash.
Right. Yeah, I've rigged up a little vac that does successfully suck them up without killing them.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah,
So,
so I have that, and then like I said, there is a box on the outside of the tree, so ostensibly they could start to populate that box, and there's no crack. Like they have to come in and out of that box.
Yeah. No,
So
I
the
mean,
hope is that they get lured up in there, but well, okay.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, look, hope springs eternal. Let me know if that works.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll bring her to the bee yard if I do.
If it works, I'm going to write it up, though. You're not writing it up. That's my article.
That's my. Just give me a credit somewhere.
Okay. All right. Okay. Where are we going? I'm in Eastern CT, Rhode Island border. I've harvested on July 22nd because I was worried the bees would begin to eat the honey stores. Yes. Now, they would, because that's where they thought they were going to have honey to survive the dearth and the winter. So then when we take that, right, we are taking away the resources that they were depending on, and you can kill your colony in no time by harvesting honey and then not knowing or not observing how much is also left behind in the brood box. Say, for instance, do you have end frames? There's some seasons when you get end frames that have, there's 4 end frames full of capped honey plus full supers. Go ahead, take all the supers off, harvest them, no problem. But then you have years where, and this is a bad year for honey in my area, and likely to be a bad year in your area too, because it's just happened to be this kind of season we're having. Good spring flow. We thought we were going to have a lot of honey, and then nothing. So in that case, there's not a lot of stores in the brood box, and if you take all the honey off, you can kill them. So you got to get back there and make sure that you've got enough. And I'm not saying in your situation, that's what the case is. Maybe you have a lot of honey in the brood box and in the supers, but that's exactly what they were counting on. So I had a significant amount of full frames of nectar, not capped. Should have waited until August. All right. So if Tori, if you took off nectar and extracted it, then you don't have honey, right? Unless you use the refractometer on it and you're telling me that the moisture content is, say, below 19 or 18 on that, whatever it is you extracted.
I put the frame, so when I did the shake test and it didn't come out, but used a refractometer, but it was at like 20, 21.5.
Yeah.
So I put those back on.
Okay.
I don't know if I had like 2 supers that were full, like full frames, nectar, just not capped. I don't know if I waited and just left them on, and then would they have capped them? I don't know if I was being too impatient. Or
you got to just leave it on until they cap it.
Okay.
All right. So now bees, if there's not a big flow on, bees aren't going to be that inclined to want to cap anything, because they have to use nectar to do that, right? So they need the combination of a nice flow so that they have excess nectar to put up in cells and dry, and then they can make wax from their own wax glands, and that also requires nectar. to cap those cells over. So in the fall, as we get toward the fall, and all through August and even in September, you're likely to find wonderfully cured honey in open cells. All right. So now, Tori, what you extracted what was the moisture content that you ended up extracting?
The capped was at 17 and 18.
Good. That's fine.
Yeah.
And if you had enough, so, I'm produced honey for a very long time, and I would combine. There's no problem with combining open frames of nectar, assuming that it's not really wet nectar. So for instance, if it's in the 20 percentile range, it's not as wet as it could have been when they first put it in there, because they're not putting it in at 20%. They did a fair amount of work to dry that. If it tastes great, you could put a frame or two of that in with your 17 or 18, and it wouldn't make much difference at all, for the moisture content. So that's just for a thought for later on for you. Right?
Okay. So is there any reason why they're not so I'm assuming it's easier for them to just throw the nectar in like the 2 supers and then they go back and cap it? Should I have waited to put the 3rd super on, and would they have maybe a cap
No, you're not. So interesting question, but I have to just remind everybody on the call that we're just sort of like following bees. We're not leading them, and they're gonna you can't make them cap honey.
Okay, thank you.
You can't make them do that at all. Now, professionals will take off their supers when they're 60% capped, and then they'll dry them in big drying rooms. Now, do they have the kind of honey that I have, or the kind that you made? I don't know. If you can dry nectar down to 17%, that's all they were going to do with it anyway. But I always had this thought that there might be a little something different between the honey that like say we produce out of capped honey, regular capped honey, and honey that's produced out of drying nectar. So I think there's different. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little too sensitive about treating bees naturally, but it's possible that it's a different kind of honey. One's a commercial product, and ours when we wait and have it capped and then extracted is pure honey, and the moisture content has been controlled naturally by the bees and not dried by some mechanical way or another. Anyway, now, so over there on the Rhode Island border, Tori, do you have a lot of natural calethra coming on?
Yes, oh my God, I have it in my yard too. It's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean that's good for you.
Yeah.
Not a lot of, and it's down in that area there. Right?
Yeah,
so,
it's everywhere.
And now you have a big turf business in that area too. Also, is it turf grass business?
In Rhode Island, they have Kingston turf, which is pretty big. I don't know.
You're still in Connecticut.
Yeah, I don't know if there might be one in Connecticut. I don't know.
But you still live in Connecticut.
Yeah, I'm in Voluntown.
Okay. All right. Listen, I appreciate you all coming. Thank you so much. And it was a pleasure to talk to you all. And I hope we got some good information out there. And thanks to the folks that were made contributions. You heard stuff about cutouts and stuff about how bees are storing honey this time of year, about the dearth and all of that. And it's just valuable stuff for us to share as a community, and it's local. So that's great. So look at our website. We have some exciting speakers that are coming up. We do have some important, horrible news about our Beltsville Bee Lab is closing. So if you were depending on them for any of your disease assessments, you'll have to send them to another lab, or we'll have to just figure out where all of that's going to end up. But that's bad news, and we're losing. I think bee science will be on the back burner for a very long time at this point. So So we might be on our own for that kind of stuff, but that's okay. We can still follow the bees, and we're smart enough to be beekeepers and have successful colonies. So good enough. All right. Thanks you all for coming. And hopefully you'll see you Saturday if you can make it up there. It's supposed to be a nice day. And we got plenty of good stuff to look at. Thanks again. Good night.